What's up, everybody? You're about to watch a clip from the most recent live stream from the Watch Talk Live channel with myself and AB from Watch Collecting Strategy. But before that, I just wanted to do a quick channel announcement. The JustBlueFish channel has finally hit 30,000 subscribers, and I just wanted to say thanks to each and every one of you guys for subscribing over the years and watching my boring YouTube videos. Now, hopefully you have noticed that over the last few months I've been working on upgrading the overall quality of my channel and the videos that I make. First, I started working on the delivery of my content, and hopefully it's been a little bit less boring than it was before. I also spent a metric ton upgrading my camera, my lighting, my microphone, and of course my studio location. So hopefully the videos look and sound better than ever. Finally, I'm going to continue to work on improving, and I think over the next few months, things will get even better. So stick around and hopefully you will enjoy the show. With that said, here's a clip and a discussion from the Watch Talk Live channel's most recent live stream, which, if you don't know, is actually the new channel that AB and I created for all of our current and future live streams. So you should definitely head over to that channel and subscribe so you don't miss another live show.
That said, let's pull up mine, and I just have 3 dials that I love. I think you're going to say, and I think most people will say that these are all really boring, they're really plain, they're really similar. But this is what I enjoy about watches and watch collecting and the hobby. We have on the left, from left to right, Rolex Submariner 116610, the Omega Speedmaster Professional Moonwatch, and the Hamilton Khaki Field Automatic. 3 watches that I own, 3 watch dials that I love. Now, for me, I think that these are nearly perfect designs. And yeah, all 3 are extremely similar. Black and white, high contrast, extremely good legibility. I like tool watch dials. I like dials that are made for a purpose, and they're made to be read. They're not busy. They're not highly decorated. They're not overdone. Another thing that I really appreciate about all 3 of these dials, the layout, the proportions, the use of space, everything is placed exactly where it needs to be. There's nothing extra. There's nothing you don't need. Everything you do need is there. It's accessible. I think that they're classic. They're timeless. They're not on trend. They're never going to go out of style. And yes, they are similar in a lot of ways, but that's what I love about these 3 specific dials.
So out of the 3, I absolutely love the Speedmaster. It's very, very easy for you to make a chronograph that is borderline. It's very hard to read. Most chronographs I've seen are actually very hard to read, but somehow Omega made it extremely symmetrical. It is very, very easy to read. And honestly, out of the 3, it's my favorite. It's like you said, you kind of picked it safe, but you have a good reason why you chose these. For me, when I would go with kind of complicated dials, it's because I like texture. I like something unique. I like something that when I look down on my wrist, I just want to stare at it and kind of look at all the different textures going on. A lot of textures, for example, are not the same. Like if your buddy buys the exact same watch and you look at it, they could have somewhat a different texture, and that's okay. But when you go, for example, with the Speedmaster, the Submariner, and the Hamilton, it's a very safe choice, but they're very legible and they're very utilitarian. And like you said, there's nothing you don't really need in there. There's nothing really extra. There's, for example, the Jacket Roux I chose. They didn't have to go that crazy with the dial, but that's what I loved. But in the same time, if you're someone who likes something simple, something legible, you probably would like it from far, but it's not something you would own, you know? And that's what I actually really do like about your choices. Out of the 3, I'm not the biggest fan of the Hamilton layout. I feel like they could have gone away without putting the 24-hour indication. But of course, like you said, there's a purpose to it. But yeah, it's honestly solid choices.
The thing about it is, for me, I'm not into brand history and the heritage of a watch. For example, the Omega Speedmaster. I didn't buy it because it's quote unquote the moon watch because astronauts wore it. I don't really care about that. But I do like the history in so much as to say that these are designs that have existed for what, 60, 70, 80 years. And they've been relatively largely unchanged. They're classic, they're timeless. They're not just on trend designs that 5 to 10 years from now, you're going to look at and go, ugh, what were we thinking in 2020 picking up these watches with these crazy dials or whatever? I like that it's forever going to be a timeless design.
So I agree. But in my opinion, there's some textured dials that are pretty classic. For example, the snowflake. Unless, like, if you've ever handled a snowflake in the metal, you don't really see the texture until you go really close and actually look at it. It just looks like a very classy, simple dial. But like I said, something like the Jacques Dreux, that one's something that maybe in 10 years we'll look back and be like, okay, what were we thinking? But sometimes there's something a little extra to the dial that makes it really cool. But that's just the way I collect. That's just the way I like to look at my watches or what I like to buy. I like there to be like something, I like the dial to be something simple. Like I wore this because of the topic of today, the SBJA 415. If you look at it from far, it just looks like a matte gray dial. But when you look closer, you start to see this crazy, I wouldn't call it snowflake, like winterish texture to it that's absolutely stunning. But you have to go really close to the dial to actually see it. If you see it from far, you won't actually see anything. You'll just see like kind of a simple gray dial. And that's something that I feel is a good balance between having something classic, but in the same time, having that something extra that makes it really cool, you know?
Yeah. And, you kind of alluded to it. It's almost like special for the person that's wearing it. It's not for everyone else. It's something you got to kind of get up close on, and you've really got to look at it and really appreciate it. And, the person that's 6 feet away from you, they're just going to see a black, a blue, a gray, whatever. Kind
of like people who collect Tiffany dials, Tiffany stamp dials. Like if they buy a Rolex, there's a Tiffany stamp. Most people around the world, they'll be like, okay, you spent an extra 10, 20,000 because it says Tiffany on it, but it's something personal. Like the guy who collected it, he knows that this is something special. But if you show a regular guy who doesn't really care about watches, yeah, I spent, an extra 20 grand because look, if you look really close, it says Tiffany, they'll probably just look at you like you're an idiot, And
right.
And that's the thing is that this hobby is very personal, and whatever kind of suits you, in the end, that's what you would go with.
Looking at the comments here, SoCal Watch Review says he appreciates both your picks. Well, thanks. I'm glad that you didn't say what probably AB is thinking. That's too safe. You're not being adventurous enough. I really like my picks, and I liked AB's picks as well.
I know that's why you didn't share them with me before the live stream, because you knew what I was going to say.
I absolutely refused to show you the pics before the stream because I knew you were going to ridicule me, and you probably wouldn't do it actually live, so I felt a little bit safer. Junior Johnson, in the live stream comments, Junior Johnson says, in 1971, he bought a two-tone Datejust with a silver linen dial. The question is, do you still own it? Because that would be awesome.
Those are beautiful watches. Those, seriously... In the 70s, Rolex made some of the most beautiful dials. They would never do it now. Honestly, I think it would be pretty dumb for them to try to do it now, to put like a mosaic pattern or brick or marble pattern in a new Datejust. It just wouldn't make any sense. But that's what makes those models very special. Honestly, I really wish I still had my 1500 with the mosaic dial, but 34 millimeters, like I don't mind wearing a 34. It just didn't sit right on my wrist, So I could wear anywhere from 36 and up. I know it's not that big of a difference. And with Rolexes, it didn't really show that big of a difference, but it just felt a little too small on my wrist. And I would have kept it for sure, but
Junior says, yes, I think that's in response to my question. Does he still have it? That's awesome. Congrats on hanging on to that for so long. SoCal Watch
keep
Reviews
it.
says, yeah, absolutely keep it. SoCal Watch Reviews says in the comments, the beautiful thing about watch collecting is there is no right or wrong picks. That's absolutely correct, 100%.
Unless you buy an Invicta. I'm just joking.
I mean, most of them are not for me, but to each their own.
That was a joke for anyone who owns an Invicta.
So let's move on to the next topic.